went over the clock like 4 times. You gave her time violation once. How is this fair? No, you're calling the score after the point is over. It's not like we're playing 1 point. You're calling the score like 6 seconds after the point is over.
Yeah, she's 100% right.
A WTA referee blamed Coco Gauff for playing too fast during her 2023 U.S. Open first-round match, while her opponent Laura Siegemund kept letting the shot clock run down to 0 without penalties. Coco walked up to the umpire and demanded to know how this was fair, sparking one of the most controversial officiating moments in recent tennis history. The umpire's bias was so obvious that even the crowd turned against her before instant regret set in. Do you think the umpire was corrupt, incompetent, or just caught up in the moment? Let's start with what actually happened because the details make this situation way worse than it initially sounds. It's not like we're having 30-ball rallies. It's 2 balls. She's going, I'm not going, I'm going at normal speed. After any breath here, I go a medium pace speed. But she can't every single point. Coco.
30-ball rallies. It's 2 balls. She's going to me. You're very quick. I'm not going. I'm going at normal speed. After any breath here, I go at medium pace speed. But she can't every single point.
Coco Gauff was playing Laura Siegemund in the first round of the 2023 U.S. Open. This was on home soil in New York with a packed crowd supporting the American star. Coco was the favorite to win the match and potentially the entire tournament, but things weren't going smoothly. She was down a set and Laura Siegemund was playing every mind game in the book to slow down the match. The shot clock in tennis exists for a reason. Players get 25 seconds between points to serve. That's the rule. It's there to keep matches moving and prevent players from stalling. Laura Siegemund kept letting that clock run down to 0 over and over again, 4 times according to Coco's count, and the umpire Marijana Veljovic gave her exactly 1 time violation. My name is No, you're not going to stop. I've been quiet this whole match. Why do you think they gave her time? She's been missing for like 6 points that first set every game, second set every game. I didn't say nothing, but now it's ridiculous. I don't care what she's doing on her serve. But she has to be ready. Okay, well said. As if she didn't have the crowd on her side enough, she spoke her piece. Meanwhile, Coco Gauff was serving at what she described as normal speed and medium pace. She wasn't rushing, she wasn't trying to catch her opponent off guard, she was just playing tennis at a reasonable tempo, and somehow that became a problem for Laura Siegemund, who later complained that Coco was serving extremely fast, almost unreasonably fast. Let that sink in for a second. Playing at normal speed became grounds for complaint while repeatedly violating the shot clock got a pass from the umpire. That's not officiating, that's favoritism, that's either incompetence or corruption, and neither option makes the umpire look good. Coco had enough in the final set. She walked up to the chair and confronted Marijana Veljovic directly. She went over the clock about 4 times. You've given her a time violation once. How is this fair? Coco said. I'm going at normal speed. I go at medium pace speed. That's not a tantrum. That's not disrespecting the official. That's a legitimate question about why the rules are being applied unevenly. Coco wasn't asking for special treatment. She was asking for the same rules to apply to both players. And the fact that she had to explicitly ask for that tells you everything about how poorly this match was being officiated. The umpire finally took action later in the match and gave Laura Siegemund a point penalty for another time violation. That penalty gave Coco a 5-1 lead in the deciding set, and you know what happened next? Laura Siegemund walked up to the umpire and complained that Coco was serving too fast. She's serving extremely fast, almost unreasonably fast, and I'm always here and one time I go to the towel, Siegemund said. So according to her logic, Coco playing at normal speed is unfair. But repeatedly violating the shot clock is totally fine because she needed to go to the towel. That's not how rules work. That's not how any of this works. The fact that the umpire even entertained this complaint is mind-boggling. There's no rule against serving fast. There's no requirement that you have to wait for your opponent to feel ready beyond giving them reasonable time to get into position. The shot clock exists specifically to prevent the kind of stalling that Siegemund was doing. But somehow Coco following the rules became the controversy instead of Siegemund breaking them. Siegemund rallied after that point penalty and pulled the set back to 5-4, which had to make Coco nervous. She was 1 game away from a humiliating first-round exit at her home slam, but she held her nerve, served out the set, and won the match. And then she went on to win the entire tournament, claiming her first Grand Slam title at just 19 years old. But here's what makes this whole situation so infuriating. Coco almost didn't get that US Open title because an umpire couldn't or wouldn't enforce the rules fairly. If Coco had lost that match because she got in her own head about the unfair officiating, her entire career trajectory changes. No US Open title, no confidence boost from winning a slam, no momentum going forward. All because an umpire decided that one player's blatant rule violations were less important than the other player's completely legal playing pace. Let's talk about Marijana Veljovic for a second because her track record in this match is damning. She gave Laura Siegemund 1 time violation after at least 4 instances of letting the clock run down to 0. That's a 25% enforcement rate on a clear objective rule. The shot clock either hit 0 or it didn't. There's no judgment call involved. It's right there on the screen for everyone to see to open this set. I know it's the rules. He's not allowed to sit. Siegemund must have said something, but Veljovic waited until Coco confronted her before taking any meaningful action, and even then she seemed reluctant. The point penalty that finally came was way overdue based on the number of violations that had already occurred. That's not incompetence. That's choosing not to enforce the rules until public pressure forces your hand. The crowd was absolutely on Coco's side during this match. They were booing Siegemund's stalling tactics. They were supporting Coco's complaints to the umpire. They understood what was happening even if the official in the chair refused to acknowledge it. And that crowd support probably played a role in the umpire finally taking action, because looking biased in front of a hostile crowd is not a good look for anyone trying to maintain authority. But let's also talk about Laura Siegemund's behavior, because she doesn't come out of this looking good either. After the match, she had the
Siegemund must have said something.
audacity to complain about how the crowd treated her. She said they showed her no respect and treated her like a cheater and a bad person. She claimed she never did anything against the audience and stayed calm the entire match. It's the first time I'm crying in a press conference. As a tennis player, you are a performer. You owe the people. You owe the kids that watch. And I'm just a bit, at the end of the day, I go home and I can look at myself and I can say I did a great job. But did I get anything from the people for that? Even less than a 0, because they treated me bad. Like they treated me like I was a cheater, like I was trying, sneaky ways to win this match or something. They treated me like I was a bad person. But there are people who throwing rackets, who are screaming, who are making bad gestures toward the audience. I didn't not one moment in the whole match, and there was a lot of tension going on. Not one moment I did anything. I was just slow. And that's something in the rule. I get my time violation. That's fine. No, I don't know, except she absolutely did do things that deserved crowd hostility. She repeatedly violated the shot clock. She used every stalling tactic available to disrupt Coco's rhythm. She complained about her opponent playing at a normal pace as if that was somehow...
I'm crying in a press conference. As a tennis player, you are a performer. You owe the people. You owe the kids that watch. And I'm just a bit... at the end of the day, I go home and I can look at myself and I can say, I did a great job. But did I get anything from the people for that? Even less than a 0, because they treated me bad. They treated me like I was a cheater, like I was trying, sneaky ways to win this match or something. They treated me like I was a bad person. But there are people who are throwing rackets, who are screaming, who are making bad gestures toward the audience. I did not one moment in the whole match, and there was a lot of tension going on. Not one moment I did anything. I was just slow. And that's... That's something in the rule. I get my time violation.
Unfair. Those aren't the actions of someone playing fair and square. Those are the actions of someone using gamesmanship to gain an unfair advantage. And then to turn around and play the victim about crowd reaction. That's rich. The crowd treated her exactly how she deserved to be treated based on how she played that match. If you don't want to be seen as a cheater, don't repeatedly break the rules. If you don't want to be booed, don't engage in obvious time wasting that everyone in the stadium can see. Siegemund said she never threw rackets or screamed or made bad gestures toward the audience. Cool, that's the bare minimum of professional behavior. That doesn't mean you get a pass for breaking the rules throughout an entire match. The crowd wasn't upset about her demeanor. They were upset about her tactics, and they were right to be upset. Coco admitted after the match that she doesn't like confrontation and wasn't sure if she was right to speak up until it happened multiple times. That shows remarkable restraint. Actually, most players would have exploded way earlier. But Coco kept her composure, stated her case clearly to the umpire, and let the facts speak for themselves. The fact that she was proven right when the umpire finally started enforcing the rules validates that she was justified in speaking up. This isn't the only time Coco has had issues with officiating. During a French Open semi-final loss in 2024, she broke down crying over an incorrect call on one of her points. At the Olympics, another wrong call led to her demanding a rule change following a defeat. There's a pattern here of Coco getting screwed by officials at crucial moments, and it's starting to look less like coincidence and more like a systemic problem with how tennis officiating works. But back to the US Open match, the instant regret that hit Marijana Veljovic after this match must have been intense. She officiated one of the most controversial matches of the tournament. She showed clear bias or incompetence in how she enforced the shot clock rules. She created a situation where a young American star almost lost in the first round on home soil because the umpire wouldn't do her job. And then Coco went on to win the entire tournament, which made the umpire's poor officiating look even worse in retrospect. Imagine being Marijana Veljovic watching Coco lift that US Open trophy knowing that you almost prevented that moment from happening. Knowing that your failure to enforce basic rules could have derailed an iconic career moment. That's got to sting. That's the definition of instant regret. The WTA never publicly addressed this officiating controversy, which is typical. Tennis organizations are notoriously bad at holding officials accountable for mistakes. They'll find players for racket smashes or verbal outbursts, but umpires who blow calls or enforce rules unevenly rarely face consequences. That creates a culture where bad officiating continues because there's no incentive to improve. The Laura Siegemund situation also highlights a broader problem in tennis. Gamesmanship and time wasting are accepted parts of the sport in a way they shouldn't be. Players use towels, take injury timeouts, and stall between points constantly, and umpires let it happen because confronting it creates controversy. But that creates an unfair playing environment for players who just want to play tennis at a normal pace. Coco Gauff playing at medium pace speed should not be controversial. It should be the standard. The fact that it became a source of complaint shows how backwards tennis culture has become around pace of play. The shot clock was supposed to fix this problem. It was supposed to eliminate the subjectivity around time violations. But if umpires won't enforce it consistently, the clock is meaningless. The crowd reaction during this match was fascinating because it showed that fans understand fairness even when officials don't. They could see what was happening. They could see Siegemund stalling. They could see the umpire ignoring it, and they let their feelings be known. That crowd pressure probably saved Coco's tournament because it forced the umpire to finally take action. But players shouldn't have to rely on crowd support to get fair officiating. The rules should be enforced consistently regardless of who's playing or where the match is happening. That's the basic expectation for any professional sport. Tennis fails at this regularly, and the 2023 US Open first round is a perfect example of that failure. The fact that Coco won the tournament despite this officiating disaster is a testament to her mental toughness. Most 19-year-olds would have fallen apart after that first-round controversy. The combination of being down a set, fighting with the umpire, and dealing with an opponent using every stalling tactic available would break most players. But Coco regrouped, won that match, and then won 6 more to claim the title. That US Open victory established Coco as a legitimate star. It wasn't a fluke. It was earned through 7 rounds of high-quality tennis under enormous pressure. But it very nearly didn't happen because an umpire couldn't enforce basic rules, and that should bother everyone who cares about fair competition. Marijana Veljovic probably doesn't lose sleep over this match. Most officials don't dwell on their mistakes because they have to move on to the next tournament, but she should think about it. She should think about how close she came to destroying one of the best stories in recent tennis history. She should think about why she waited so long to enforce a clear objective rule, and she should think about how her officiating looked to millions of people watching around the world. The instant regret should be permanent. Not just for this match, but as a reminder that officiating matters, that enforcing rules fairly matters, that giving players equal treatment under those rules matters. Marijana Veljovic failed at all of those things during Coco Gauff's first-round match at the 2023 US Open. And the fact that Coco won the tournament anyway doesn't excuse that failure. An umpire let Laura Siegemund violate the shot clock 4 times while punishing Coco Gauff for playing at normal speed, creating one of the most biased officiating performances in recent tennis memory. Coco had to literally walk up to the chair and demand fair treatment before the umpire finally started doing her job. The instant regret hit hard when Coco won the whole tournament, proving the umpire almost destroyed an iconic moment. Smash like and subscribe for more breakdowns of officiating disasters that almost changed sports.